The man you see today has become an expert in something most people don't even realize they've lost: presence. Because confidence isn't what you feel, it's what others perceive. And the most ironic thing is that many who seem confident are merely rehearsing the role of someone they'd like to be. This video isn't for those who want to seem confident, but for those who want to embody it. Because there's a brutal secret no one tells you. The more you seek to feel confident, the further you distance yourself from it. True confidence doesn't shout, doesn't ask permission, doesn't seek acceptance. It simply occupies space. And the reason this is so rare today is simple. We're creating a generation that believes believing in yourself is enough. It isn't. Believing in yourself without a foundation is like climbing a glass building with a flamethrower. It looks brilliant on the outside, but it will collapse under the first real pressure. Real confidence is built on friction, on overcoming humiliation, on metabolizing defeat, and above all, on the decision to never again fade away to fit in. That's when you start to understand something society has hidden from you since childhood. The world doesn't reward those who are good. It rewards those who impose value. And confidence is the perception of value even before you open your mouth. That's why some men enter a room and immediately become the center of attention. They don't ask for it. They don't need it. They simply carry an energy that commands attention. And this energy isn't luck, genetics, or cheap coaching motivation. It's cultivated in silence, in solitude, in rejection, and then refined in each interaction as if it were a dance where you dictate the rhythm. Meanwhile, the men who suffer the most trying to appear confident are the ones who sabotage themselves the most. They project anxiety disguised as friendliness, insecurity camouflaged as kindness, and a desperation for acceptance hidden beneath harmless smiles. The result? They are ignored. Worse, they are seen as emotionally fragile, even when they are good people. They told you all you had to do was believe. That if you looked in the mirror and repeated positive phrases, if you affirmed your greatness, if you were yourself, everything would be resolved. But they didn't warn you that the mirror doesn't validate anyone. That it doesn't matter what you repeat if inside, you still feel like you're pretending. The biggest poison of modern self-confidence is that it has been pasteurized. It has become an off-the-shelf product, an instant solution sold by those who have never needed to build a real presence in environments where failure has a cost. And that's precisely where the fatal error lies. The more you try to feel confident, the more you distance yourself from the behavior that naturally creates it. Because confidence, contrary to what you were taught, is not born from belief. It is born from evidence. When a man enters a room carrying uncertainties, no matter how much he smiles, his body betrays him. His micro-expressions give him away. His silent hesitation becomes a nonverbal scream that says, "Don't trust me." The glance that escapes, the hand that trembles discreetly, the voice that falters at the end of the sentence. None of this is read rationally, but all of it is processed subconsciously by the observer, and the judgment is relentless. In the social game, you are scanned in milliseconds. And it doesn't matter if you have a good heart. What matters is the impact of your presence. That's why men who consider themselves good, polite, respectful, and kind don't understand why they are systematically rejected. They have been conditioned to believe that virtue and acceptance go hand in hand. But the reality is different. Society rewards those who project value, not necessarily those who are valuable. This illusion stems from the way we were raised. From a young age, we were taught to seek external validation. Get good grades, you get applause. Follow the rules, you are praised. Say what others want to hear, you are accepted. This shapes a behavior, pleasing in order to belong. And this behavior, once internalized, becomes a prison, because the desire to please is the opposite of confidence. Real confidence doesn't seek to be liked. It commands respect, even if it costs discomfort. It is not arrogance, but she doesn't bend. And that's why she's rare. Because to sustain her, you need to be willing to be alone, to be rejected, to be misunderstood, and still remain whole. Most people can't handle that. And that's why they resort to theatrics. You've seen this theatrics in action. It's the guy who raises his voice in a group to seem dominant but falls silent when confronted. It's the guy who shows off on social media but collapses in real life. It's the man who teaches alpha mindset online, but freezes in front of a woman he truly desires. They live for performance. And performance, by definition, demands validation. In other words, the more confident they seem, the more dependent on acceptance they are. True confidence, on the other hand, has no audience. It's not performance, it's essence. And that's what makes it magnetic. But this truth is uncomfortable because it requires you to relinquish the emotional crutch called motivation. That idea that when you feel ready, then you will act with confidence. A lie. True confidence doesn't wait for feelings. It's born from the habit of acting firmly even when fear is present. That's why the greatest seducers in history, from Casanova to Cleopatra, understood that presence speaks louder than words. That emotional control in public is worth more than any rehearsed phrase. And that the tension you sustain in silence often creates more desire than 1,000 compliments. Today, most people want to be seen as confident, but they don't want to pay the price of being confident. And what is that price? Exposing yourself, being judged, being rejected, being ridiculed, and continuing. Because that's only when internal evidence is born, and that evidence transforms what you feel inside. It's when you go through uncomfortable situations, survive, and understand, I am stronger than I thought I was. That takes root. That generates a solid foundation for confidence. A foundation that doesn't depend on applause or likes or being understood. Robert Greene, in The Art of Seduction, describes the power of the star, the one who stands apart, who observes, who doesn't beg for attention, but who magnetizes through an aura of mystery and dominance. And what generates this aura? Emotional control, presence, well-used silence, all elements impossible to fake for long periods. Therefore, any attempt to simulate confidence will fail under pressure. The only way to sustain a magnetic presence in any environment is to become someone who has internal proof that they don't need to be accepted to remain whole. And that's not easy. But that's why it's rare. And precisely for that reason, it's irresistible. Modern confidence encourages you to shout to be heard. Real confidence teaches you to speak less and still be heard. It's less about words, more about impact. Less about convincing, more about emanating. Less about doing and more about being. And when you begin to understand this, you realize that all the motivational speeches, the superficial advice, the winner's mindset videos, they all distract you from the essence. Because you don't need to seem strong. You need to become unshakable. And that's not taught with catchy phrases. It's built with emotional discipline, intentional exposure, and strategic self-control. Modern self-confidence, the kind sold in 30-second reels, is an anesthetic. It makes you comfortable for a few minutes, and then returns you to the pain of uncomprehended rejection. Real confidence, the kind built in discomfort, is like metal forged in fire. It goes through pressure, pain, friction, and comes out the other side stronger, cooler, firmer. And when it settles in, you no longer need to prove anything. You simply exist with such weight that the environment feels it and respects it. Therefore, the first step is not believing in yourself. The first step is destroying this idea that you need to feel confident to act confidently. You need to act first and repeat until the fear loses its power. And in this process, you will discover something curious. Confidence doesn't grow when everything goes right. It grows when you survive mistakes, criticism, falls, and get up with more presence than you had before. What holds you back today is not a lack of ability. It's the presence of conditioning. Everything in you has been trained to avoid social discomfort, to avoid rejection, to seek acceptance. But the truly confident man is the one who is not afraid of being misunderstood, because he knows who he is, and knowing who you are is the beginning of true confidence. And knowing who you are, and not trying to pretend to be, is the beginning of power. They don't speak. They observe. They don't react. They measure. They don't explain. They impose. The dirty secret of the truly dominant lies not in what they say, but in what they provoke simply with their presence. These men are not those who shout orders, but those who make everyone silently organize themselves around them. While most seek attention, the dominant cultivate tension, and tension is the true gold of seduction and authority. Because where there is tension, there is attention. And whoever controls attention, controls the environment. You've felt this before. You entered a room and noticed someone who wasn't trying to attract attention, but who, even so, was impossible to ignore. The posture was straight, but not rigid. The gaze, calm, but penetrating. There was an aggressive serenity in that body, as if ready for confrontation, but didn't need it. This is the essence of dominant presence. The peace of the warrior who knows war. And this peace is read in silence, in emotional control, in the way he occupies space without needing to justify his existence. It's no coincidence that figures like Muhammad Ali, Tupac, James Bond, and even Marlon Brando have become icons of presence. They all embodied this magnetic paradox: intensity without haste, threat without violence, charm without effort. And the most curious thing? Their body language said more than any words. Ali provoked with smiles, Tupac intimidated with his eyes, Brando seduced with silence. Bond simply existed. And that very existence destabilized adversaries and enchanted women. None of them was the most handsome man in the room, but they all had a presence that was at the same time a promise and a warning. And there's science to it. Studies conducted by universities like Stanford and Cambridge show that the human brain, in social interactions, responds first to non-verbal signals. Your limbic system scans micro-expressions, posture, response time, vocal control, pupil dilation, all in milliseconds. In other words, before you say anything, your presence has already been judged. And if your body conveys insecurity, hesitation, or anxiety, a sentence has already been given. You might even say incredible things afterward, but you'll be speaking to an emotionally closed audience. Robert Greene, in his analysis of charisma, makes it clear that the most influential figures historically are those who master inner control. They project strength, but that strength comes from within. It's the mastery of their own emotions. It's the man who doesn't need applause to feel firm. It's the one who doesn't rush to be accepted, who sustains uncomfortable silence without blinking. Because he understood something that most never discover. Whoever endures silence calmly masters time. And whoever masters time masters tension. This silent tension is perceived as valuable. Because it's rare. Because it's a sign of self-control. Because it conveys that that man has options, and therefore doesn't need to rush. And what is more desirable than someone who seems to have other options but is still there? It's the paradox of the scarce man. He is available but not accessible. He is present but not anxious. He is connected but not committed. And that is mesmerizing. Especially women, whose brains are neurologically more sensitive to subtle emotional variations. They feel this tension like a magnetic field. And that's why they're attracted to each other, even when they say they don't know why. But what do these men do, after all, to cultivate this dominant aura? Here's the secret that almost no one teaches. They don't act to impress. They act to observe. In social settings, while everyone wants to prove their worth, they scan. They study. They identify patterns. And when they finally move, they already know the ground they're treading on. They speak little, but when they do, it's precise. They know when to interrupt, when to look, the moment to turn their body. Everything is calculated. But it seems natural, because it was rehearsed in practice, repeated in silence, refined in the field. Yes, there is a technique behind it. In the Forbidden Manual, Felipe Alves calls it energetic presence. It's the ability to activate the body, align breath, posture, and focus, to generate a field of dominance even before any words are spoken. It's almost animalistic. A primal way of signaling power without needing violence. It's the lion that walks slowly, but that no one dares to face. It's the shark that circles, while the fish freeze. This technique isn't about looking cool. It's about embodying an energy that communicates, I am in control of my world. And this state, once activated, changes your biochemistry. It changes your voice. It changes your vibration. You stop looking for signs of acceptance and become the signal that everyone reads. But here's the cruelest detail. This type of presence is not for those seeking approval. Because in seeking acceptance, you already surrender your power. You already position yourself below. The dirty secret of dominance is that it demands risk. You need to be willing to be misinterpreted, to be judged, to be rejected. Because by positioning yourself above others, you will automatically be tested. And that's where most people fail. Because when tested, they retreat, they justify, they apologize, and they lose everything they were building. But the truly dominant, they sustain. They don't back down. They don't react. They simply maintain. And it is this cold maintenance, this emotional stability under pressure, that transforms tension into authority. It's as if each interaction were a chessboard. The weak want to move the pieces quickly. The dominant wait. They make the environment move first. And this creates an imbalance, because nobody knows what to expect from someone who doesn't react. Predictability is a comfort that these men never offer. And that's why everyone around them is on alert. And whoever puts others on alert leads the field. Of course, this isn't something you learn in a day, but the most fascinating thing is that it all starts with a choice. The choice not to seek control over others, but over yourself. The choice to observe before speaking, to listen more than to interrupt. It's about remaining calm, even when everything around demands haste. It's about upholding one's own truth, even in the face of disapproval. This is the solidity that true leaders possess. It's not about being the tallest, the strongest, the most beautiful. It's about being the most steadfast. Because steadfastness in today's world has become the exception. And every exception, when well positioned, becomes a benchmark. Perhaps that's why the most dangerous men are not those who shout, but those who smile silently. Not those who threaten, but those who observe coldly. Not those who try to convince, but those who make you question yourself. And all this begins with presence. The invisible field where the social game truly happens, where instinct speaks louder than logic, where you don't need to say anything to be obeyed. You don't need more phrases, you need more inner control, to breathe deeply, align your body, hold your gaze, and be silent. Because silence, when imbued with presence, speaks louder than any argument. And that's the secret of true masters. They dominate without seeming to try. They enchant without seeming to seduce. They lead without saying they are leaders. And that's why everyone follows them. Now that you know this code, comes the hardest part, applying it. And that's precisely where we enter the next layer. Because understanding the theory of presence isn't enough. You need practical tools, actionable strategies, a method you can use today, and that immediately begins to change how the world perceives you. And if you're ready for that, then the next chapter will give you what no one has taught you. The practical method. The formula for unwavering magnetism. The first piece of this code is what I call the silent conflict posture. Don't confuse it with hostility. This has nothing to do with aggression. It's about being ready, even when no one is attacking you. It's an energy of readiness that makes your body communicate. I am not dangerous, unless you force me to be. It's the same look you see in soldiers, in great fighters, in men who have been through emotional war zones. They don't speak louder. They don't walk with their chests puffed out, but you feel something there. Something that demands respect before sympathy. And what creates this energy? Two elements: controlled breathing and body grounding. When you slow your breathing, your pupils dilate less, your muscle tone stabilizes, and your nervous system transmits security. Combine this with grounding, firm posture, feet firmly planted, chest open without tension, and you activate in your body what psychologists call unwavering presence. You become the gravitational center of the environment, even in silence. The second pillar is even more subtle and more powerful: the reverse validation gaze. This concept completely redefines how you interact. Instead of seeking approval in the other person's eyes, you observe how they react to your silence. This creates a brutal inversion in the social dynamic. You're not saying, "Like me?" You're saying, "Let's see if you deserve me." And this generates an immediate side effect. The person in front of you enters a mild state of social anxiety. They don't understand why they want your attention, but they do. They don't know why they feel the need to impress you, but they feel it. This is ancestral. The human brain is conditioned to seek validation from those who are not seeking ours. And the more you sustain this gaze, without haste, without judgment, the more you activate the other person's desire to be accepted by you. This works in any context: meetings, flirting, debates, presentations. It's the gaze of a person who isn't begging to be included. They are selecting who will be admitted into their world. And this simple gesture changes the entire game. The third part of the formula is what closes this cycle: ritualized presence. Most people enter interactions randomly, emotionally disorganized, with confused thoughts. The result? They arrive in the social field like loose pieces, without a central axis. A true social predator, on the other hand, enters with a ritual, a set of actions that align body, mind, and energy before any exposure. It can be something simple: 5 deep breaths, an internal power phrase, a physical posture adjustment, a symbolic touch on the chest. The format doesn't matter. What matters is the function. To put you in a state of internal authority before interacting. Because what you bring to the conversation begins before the conversation. And this ritual, when repeated, becomes an anchor. An unconscious trigger that activates your most magnetic mode, even when your mind is in doubt. This is not superstition. This is applied neuroprogramming. And the world's greatest performers, from athletes to military leaders, use this. Because the social environment is a battlefield, and entering it without ritual is like going to war without armor. These 3 keys, a posture of silent conflict, a gaze of reverse validation, and a ritualized presence, form the basis of a new kind of trust. One that doesn't depend on what others say, that doesn't fluctuate with the mood of the day, that doesn't need rehearsed phrases. It's a trust built from the inside out, refined in silence, activated in the body, projected effortlessly. And perhaps most importantly, it's a trust that survives failure. Because it doesn't depend on results. It manifests in how you enter and how you leave. Even when doors close, even when connection doesn't happen, even when rejection comes. True magnetism is the kind you maintain when no one chooses you. Because that's when you prove your energy isn't reactive. It's foundational. You might leave this video inspired or transformed. The difference? Action. What you've heard so far is just a fraction, a spark of the presence that can be activated within you. But if you want to go beyond theory and internalize this power viscerally, it's time to take the next step. The Forbidden Manual, How to Trigger Desire in 60 Seconds, isn't just an audiobook. It's a code of social warfare. In it, you'll discover the exact mechanism that awakens desire in the first few seconds of any interaction. Without needing to say much, without forcing anything. Just strategic presence, tested triggers, and techniques that work in the field. While most are trying to be nice, you'll learn how to create magnetic tension. While they seek connection, you'll generate obsession. And the best part, you can listen to this wherever you want. In your workout, in the car, in the silence of your ritual before dominating the environment. And if you're here now, it's because something in you is ready. Ready to stop asking for permission. Ready to turn the tables. Ready to be remembered. And if it's truly your moment, click now.